Hello, I'm Mary-Ann Fife from the University of Cape Town, South Africa, and with my colleagues Janet Small and Sam Lee Pan, we're going to briefly describe our migration journey. There are 5 sections to this presentation: the background and context, our migration approach, staff support, the more technical processes, and then we'll end off with a few reflections.
Okay, so in this section on background and contexts, Sam, Mary-Ann and I work at the Centre for Innovation in Learning and Teaching, which manages a digital learning platform and provides teaching and learning support for staff. In January 2022, UCT signed a contract with Desire to Learn to replace the existing Sakai platform with the new platform Brightspace. The platform migration forms part of the Learning Platforms Update project, commonly known as LPUP, which is a key strategic project for the university's Vision 2030, which includes future-proofing the university's digital ecosystem. Our organisation, SILT, is the implementer for the LPUP project. And we have around about 2,500 courses currently hosted on our Sakai platform, which is known as VULA, which means open in a local language. So historically, UCT was a full contact teaching institution. But like so many other institutions worldwide, we had to flip into a fully online mode during the COVID crisis. So during this emergency remote teaching time, it was pretty traumatic for everyone, for students and staff. And in 2022, when we began our migration, everyone was still in recovery mode, feeling disrupted, pretty uncertain and exhausted. But during COVID, there was a great deal more development and design invested in the platform. And particular relevance was there was a lot of customization and people spent time developing unique features for their course. It included things like extensive lessons pages, lots of recorded material, online quizzes and so on. So in summary, when we reached the beginning of the migration process in 2022, it was not the best moment for this journey. Staff were exhausted and felt they'd invested a lot of time in the previous platform and so not feeling very friendly towards a whole new change. But we went ahead anyway, and I'm going to hand over to Mary-Ann to talk about the way we approached it.
I'm going to be going through some of the characteristics of the migration. And for the reasons that Janet just mentioned, the first point I want to make is that we elected to take a supported approach, which, as you will see, was a largely manual process. So broadly speaking, the process involved, firstly, auto-converting content from the old platform to the new platform, which was an automated scripted process. Next was fixing the known issues that the auto-conversion did not fix. And one example of this would be breaking links to the old platform and relinking them to the relevant content items in Brightspace or Amatuba. This was a manual process. And then lastly, restructuring the auto-converted lessons content so that it fit neatly into the Brightspace architecture. As an example, this is how the auto-conversion brought lessons across to Brightspace, and the restructuring was about reducing this fragmentation of content into something sensible. This process had to be done in consultation with the course conveners, particularly because we were moving to in-person teaching, and the equivalent VULA course that we converted will have been taught when we were still engaging in physically distanced learning. In many cases, some of the content was no longer relevant, so this restructuring process was manual and particularly time-consuming. The second point that I'd like to make about the migration is that we took a phased approach aligned to the academic year of study. First years in 2023, second and third years in 2024, and fourth year and postgrad courses in 2025. This seems sensible to us because the migration would align with the student's academic progression and cause the least amount of disruption related to students being on more than one platform. Of course, this would still happen because students don't always move entirely predictably through the system, but we were trying to minimize this. So for those students who remain on track, the cohort that started in 2023 will be the first to use only Brightspace or Amatuba for the duration of their career at UCT. There was some flexibility around the timing of the migration for faculties and departments to make decisions that made sense for them. For example, a small number of departments decided to bite the bullet and migrate all their courses or 2 or 3 years at once. But overall, we plan to follow this phased approach. Another feature of the migration is that there was a strong focus on relationship management and change management at various levels. We have for the last year or so been meeting monthly with Deputy Deans of Teaching and Learning for all the faculties to update them on the project status and gather insights and feedback from them about any issues that they are aware of that had perhaps not been communicated with us. We also presented at faculty board meetings and visited departments to engage with them about their specific needs. And personally, I found these departmental sessions really valuable for understanding the nuances of how departments work and how we can support them. So during these engagements, some groups spoke about how they wanted to standardize their course sites, and others about how there were administrative elements of their VULA course structures that relate to departmental processes and the importance of retaining these elements of their course structures. We weren't always able to address all of their needs, but the context was really, really useful for us. Mostly, I think it helped the community to see that there were actual humans, as in us, our teams, who were there to guide them through the migration, which allayed some of their anxiety around the migration process. So let's have a look at what the migration process looked like for staff. Although collectively there was a clear sense of exhaustion, there were individuals who had an appetite for starting fresh. So we provided these 3 options. The most supported option, option 1, was that we would run the auto-conversion, fix many of the known issues, and engage with each individual course convener to understand and advise about how they would like the content to be restructured on Amatuba, and then, of course, implement that structure on their behalf. The least supported option, option 3, was that we would hand over 2 sites, a blank site and a reference site, that would allow them to import specific content from their VULA site into their new Amatuba site as they wished. The second option, which was the in-between option, was that we would migrate the content as is without restructuring and fix many of the known issues. As you may imagine, the majority of course conveners elected the most supported option, option 1, and I would estimate about 70 to 80% selected option 1. The next question is, how did we manage to do this? And I'm talking specifically about the manual elements of the process here. Sam will provide the detail about the more technical elements of the known issues and the auto-conversion. But this is the work that our teams did. So in a nutshell, we have got a team of learning designers. They were each allocated a number of courses, and they worked with course conveners to establish how they wanted their courses to be implemented on the Brightspace platform. Once this structure was established and the first couple of modules implemented, student assistants called EdTech advisors would build the remainder of the modules on the platform. But more specifically, the very first task was to establish the list of courses that needed to migrate from VULA to Amatuba, along with the corresponding course conveners so that we could communicate with these individuals. We then told them via email about the different migration options and asked them to select an option 1, 2, or 3. All of this information, the list of courses, the course conveners, their contact details, and the migration option they selected were recorded on our project management platform, ClickUp. And once we knew which option the convener selected, the learning designers would set up time to meet with their convener. And then in parallel, the auto-conversion was triggered, and if it was successful, the EdTech advisor would complete the VULA site analysis to determine the known issues or the known conversion issues. They would then fix the known issues and record this on standard documentation. Then, on the agreed date, the learning designer would meet with the convener to establish the site structure. They would then develop a sample module that in theory would serve as the template for implementation by the EdTech advisors, but for various reasons it ended up in many cases that the learning designers would carry out the implementation of all these modules themselves. We also added a review step where each converted course was evaluated against a quality checklist to ensure a level of consistency across courses. And then lastly, before I hand over to Sam, I just want to mention that the migration support was one type of support that we offered. We also offered guided training that took the form of 2 2-hour sessions, online consultations where people who were busy working on their Brightspace sites would work through specific issues with the learning designer. The SILT help desk was operational, where staff could call in or email queries, and we tried a walk-in service where people could physically come with their laptops and visit us, but stopped the service because in the end it didn't gain much traction.
Hi all. So I'm going to cover the migration process and what went on behind the scenes on the software and technical side. Throughout the migration, there has been a lot of work that went into enhancing the automated conversion service, which I will step you through. Because our university has taken a phased migration which was stretched out over multiple years, we invested time into streamlining the process as there would be benefits in the long term from the investment. Rather than only a back-end process with a bulk conversion of sites, the enhanced migration allowed users to trigger a conversion for their site just in time. Our developer team created a tool that plugged into Sakai, which was called Convert to Amatuba. The tool was designed to be self-service so that you could add the tool to any course or project site on Sakai. This led to more agency where staff could control when and where they would like to migrate. Generally, though, courses stayed within the phased migration, but this tool provided more flexibility going forward. For those with a technical interest, the tool used a framework called Tsugi. Tsugi allows you to create external tools that work across any LMS platform using the Learning Tools Interoperability (LTI) standard. Tsugi is super efficient to create LTI tools, and if you are a developer, you might want to look into it to create other LMS plugins. In this case, the tool is specifically designed for converting courses from Sakai to Brightspace, so it would only be used for the Sakai LMS. We've made the code open source and you can access it from our GitHub. There are 2 versions of this Convert to Amatuba app. One, where you can trigger it from an individual course site designed to be used by lecturers, or administrator version where you can trigger multiple sites. The administrator view is predominantly used by the learning designers at SILT. The conversion was run before working on each course, so the most up-to-date version of the fixed known issues was used. We spoke to several institutions on how they managed their conversion, and quite a few used reference sites, which is a concept that we used in our migration too. Essentially, the tool would generate 2 sites. Firstly, the main course teaching site, and secondly, a reference site. The course material from Sakai is automatically imported into the reference site, and then the learning designer or lecturer can choose what material they wish to copy into the actual course site. When we spoke to other institutions, New York University used conversion reports of known issues, which was another concept that we implemented. When the conversion ran, the tool would also generate a custom report per site. These known issues related to Sakai issues when converted from Sakai to Brightspace. There was a large list of known issues which required manual fixes that needed to be done on Brightspace to align it to the original course in Sakai. Because not all courses use all available tools, the conversion report would help detect and show the issues that required fix based on those tools specifically used in that site, rather than sending through a full list. With work through our developers and the D2L technical conversion team, the number of issues reduced over time by at least half, maybe more. Our aim is to get this down as much as possible, which will also facilitate other institutions if they are moving from Sakai to Brightspace. The conversion report would highlight tools that did not translate well, and then these would require the lecturer or learning designer to decide on an appropriate alternative. For example, the Sakai chat room tool could be set up in MS Teams as a channel. There were also new parts of Brightspace which we wished to maximize. The conversion was also customized so that the Sakai lessons material would be automatically imported into our HTML custom page templates. This enhanced the look and feel of the new course sites. Our work on Brightspace is still ongoing, and we are busy with extensive functionality gap analysis, where we map user needs with what was fulfilled through Sakai, but has not yet been able to be met through Brightspace. We look forward to engaging with the Brightspace community to finding solutions for these gaps, and if necessary, designing custom solutions.
Great. So we're coming to the end of our presentation. I'm just going to give a few reflections from our team that you might find useful. So there's sort of 5 points we came up with. The first one is it's a sort of process that you have to learn while doing. It's kind of a strange experience because a platform migration is a very large undertaking, and it's not a job you're likely to have to do twice in your career, which means you're going to have to learn it from people who've already done it. And we did do extensive consultations with other universities, and we thank everyone who talked to us. It tolerated all our endless lists of questions. We really found that useful. But like any other human endeavor, those accounts didn't quite prepare us for as much as we would have liked, and we had to still figure things out as we go along. And that can be a bit disconcerting, but that's just what's part of the takeaway. It's going to be a learn by doing experience. The second point is that having support from all levels is really important. It can really help your process if you've got solid support from the top executive, faculty and teaching staff, departmental level heads, as well as student leaders. Especially when the timing is not right, which I think it really is, then having support from all levels is really going to help your process. The third takeaway is prepare your team. And if possible, negotiate a long lead time so your team can upskill and prepare for the demands. Work out which skills are going to be needed and when, and do the best scoping you can. Get extra help in, and I think we found student assistance to be a very helpful strategy that could really make the process go smoother. The fourth point is communicate a lot. We were told this by several of the partners from D2L about how you can never communicate too much, and we concur. More communication is good communication. So tell everybody as much as you can about what's going to be happening and what is happening. And the last point we really feel passionately about, if possible, link this to an education development approach. Rather than seeing it as a tech project, see it as a way that you can spend time looking at your quality of your courses, convince all stakeholders that educational redesign should be actively encouraged. Since every course has to be looked at and touched, it's a unique opportunity to work with all courses. These are our 5 takeaways, and we hope they're useful to you. And anybody migrating, good luck to you. Thank you.